Hi everyone. We're entering week 3 and I just kind of wanted to give you an update on what's going on in the class. We'll move forward with 3 chapters this week, and so we really need to get going. I've noticed we really need to move forward on the posts for chapters 3, 4, and 5 from last week. But let's just move forward real quick. One of the things I've noticed in class, we've gone through it, federalism, the chapter on federalism, you seem to be doing pretty good on as far as your learning activities and your discussion boards, and you guys are doing a great job on those. The chapters on civil liberties and civil rights have been going very well. You're doing really well with your tests in there. I would like to see you moving forward and posting to the discussion boards for those. They're incredibly rich and interesting subjects, and so I hope you move forward on those, as you should be finishing those up by the end of this week. Well, actually this week or early this week. I would like to talk about one thing. I think it was in the first week of class that I didn't talk about, was I noticed when we went through one of the discussion boards, it was the discussion board on political compromise. I noticed that a lot of the posts were the same. And I see this every once in a while, and this kind of brings me back to that issue that I talked about in the course orientation. Why we think the way we do, the epistemology of how we know what we know. Generally, when we go to school, we're taught the practical applications of some kind of philosophy. Generally, we're not taught the philosophy, which would be really helpful if we knew. But I think with all the things that you need to be taught in school, a lot of times the philosophical justification for what you're being taught is kind of skimmed over, and you're just taught that what you're taught is good. I know we usually go to school and we have teachers that tell us to be open-minded and think critically about what we think about. To be honest with you, I don't think that's the case. I think usually the more a teacher is telling you to be open-minded and think critically, a lot of times you're getting an ideology shoved down your throat. And when I see this, I just like to say something about it. And I noticed in political compromise, a lot of the discussions were the same. And a lot of it was favorable to compromise, in fact, incredibly favorable to compromise. I think I made a comment in one of the discussion boards about, it sounded like I was reading the accumulated works of Neville Chamberlain. If you don't know who that is, he was the Prime Minister in Great Britain before World War II, and worked with Hitler to sign a treaty and have Hitler sign a piece of paper saying that the two countries would never again go to war and there would be peace in their time. But in that, there's nothing wrong if that's what you agree with. I just hope you know it. And so I wanted to tell you probably why most of you have kind of been probably taught this while you have been in school, and it's the contemporary thought in America today. My guess on this is probably because there was a man who had a profound impact on the philosophical nature of what we think today, and that his name was Hegel. He is a German philosopher who wrote some incredibly powerful philosophy. He had written about the progression of history, and one of the things that Hegel wrote about was that conflicting ideas can work together to form a better idea. And this is what he called his dialectic, that you had a thesis and an antithesis, and they would work together and come up with a better solution to the problem. And history moved in this direction, and it was his idea, not just his, and actually it had come before him, but he articulated it so well that history is progressive, that it's moving forward. And this is the thought of most contemporary political thinkers, or many political thinkers. And so the idea that history is always getting better is kind of most well recently articulated from Hegel. Although Hegel thought history had ended in constitutional monarchy a while back, it's obviously philosophy has moved forward from them, and also so has politics and political science. But I just think it's interesting for you to know that you think that way, possibly because that's what you've been taught. You've been taught the practical application of this, but you may have never gone into the philosophical justification for that. So thinking this isn't wrong or right, but I just wanted you to know that this is possibly a reason why you think that way, and it's not necessarily that, you know, from the top of our heads we read a book and we kind of think about something for a minute. Remember, epistemology shows that we have kind of a worldview. We've kind of formed our beliefs and our values and our judgments. So when we read something and we answer something, it's not like we're thinking new. We're simply applying a little bit of new knowledge to what we knew before, and we're putting it together that way. So I just wanted to say that real quick, a little bit of philosophical there, but I think it's important for us to know that. So when we went through civil rights and civil liberties, like I said, I'd appreciate it if you guys would get in there and get moving on those, because if you get behind in this class, it's going to be really hard to catch up. And next week, or this week, we'll be covering Congress, the presidency, and bureaucracy. These are three interesting chapters. They're basically going to go through creation, structure, organization, and leadership in these three different areas. I don't think it's the most interesting part of the book, but we need to take on this information before we move forward with, I think next week we'll be covering the judiciary and interest groups and political parties. And those will get a lot more interesting, but we've got to understand the structure and the makeup of these groups before we can move forward and get into those groups. So I just want to say, if you have any questions for the class, please let me know. Don't think you're bothering me if you read the book and you're struggling with a concept or an issue or a fact. Send me an email, give me a call. I love those types of messages and calls from students, and if you ever get a chance, drop by my office. I'd love to talk to you about that. There's nothing greater than to have a student come in and talk to you about something that's interesting and a subject that you love. So go ahead and do that. Don't think you're bothering me. Also, as far as the class goes, I know there are a few problems with the quiz. It seems like in each quiz there's one or two questions that doesn't seem to have the right answer in it. I've gone in and I've tried to correct those mistakes, but they don't seem to be correcting. So go ahead and send me an email or something if you notice that a question is wrong and you've marked it a couple of times and you think you have it right and it's coming out wrong. I'll still try to go in and correct those, but I want you to know they may not be corrected. But since we're evaluating this new system, I've already planned on giving you some extra points at the end of the class. So however points there are on all these different tests, I'll just add them up and add them to your score and help you that way. So that shouldn't be a problem. But that's it for this week. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in the discussion boards.